My name is Sarah. I am 56 years old, and I live in Texas, USA. Before I start this story, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notification button for more upcoming interesting stories. And please, tell me in the comments which part of the country you are watching from, because I love knowing where my family of listeners are joining from. Broken heart, my neighbor raped me, and my own mother said I deserved it. Yes, I know those words sound harsh, but they are the truth. When I finally told her what he had done to me, she slapped me across the face and spat those words at me. You brought this on yourself. You deserved it. I remember running into my room that night, slamming the door behind me, and collapsing on the bed. My body was shaking. My heart was racing. I felt dirty. I felt broken. I felt like my life had no meaning anymore. I opened my drawer and pulled out a small white bottle of pills. I held it in my trembling hand and whispered to myself, if even my own mother hates me, then why should I live? Tears streamed down my face. My vision blurred. My whole body trembled. I twisted the cap of the bottle with my shaky fingers, and just as I was about to pour the pills into my palm, something happened that froze me in place. But before I tell you what stopped me, let me take you back to the beginning, so you will understand how my life led to that painful night. I grew up in a small neighborhood in Texas where everyone knew each other. It was the kind of place where neighbors borrowed sugar and salt, children played hide and seek on the streets, and families left their doors unlocked. To outsiders, it looked like a peaceful place. But what goes on behind closed doors is not always what it seems. My father left when I was 5 years old. He walked out one morning and never came back. No volvió. No explicación. I never saw him again. My mother was left to raise me alone. She worked 2 jobs, a cleaner in the day and selling fried chicken at night. She was hardworking, yes, but she was also bitter and cold. Her heart was like stone. She never hugged me. She never told me she loved me. In her eyes, I was just another responsibility, a mouth to feed, and a reminder of the man who abandoned her. Still, I tried to make her proud. I studied hard. I cooked when she was tired. I even took care of myself most of the time. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. When I turned 15, I began to notice the way our neighbor, Mr. John, looked at me. He was in his late 30s, tall and broad, with a wife and 2 kids. To everyone else, he was a good man. He always greeted people, helped my mother with groceries, and smiled politely whenever he saw me. But behind that smile, I could see something strange in his eyes whenever he looked at me. One evening, while my mother was at work, I heard a heavy knock on the door. My heart skipped. I peeped through the window and saw Mr. John standing there. Something in me told me not to open the door, but I ignored my instincts. I opened it. That night, everything changed. I will not go into details, but what he did to me broke me in ways I cannot explain. I cried. I wanted to tell someone. I wanted someone to protect me. And when I finally told my mother, hoping she would fight for me, she instead turned against me. Her words cut me deeper than his actions. You deserved it. That night, her voice kept echoing in my head, over and over and over again. And that was when I decided to end it all. I grabbed the bottle of pills, tears pouring down my cheeks. I was ready to leave this world. But just as I lifted the bottle to my lips, something unexpected happened. And that, my dear listeners, is where I will stop for today. Yes, I was sitting on my bed, with tears streaming down my face. My hands were shaking, and I was holding a bottle of pills. I had just decided that if my own mother thought I deserved to be hurt, then I no longer had a reason to live. I twisted the cap open. My lips trembled. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I tilted the bottle, and some of the small white pills rolled into my palm. I stared at them. My hand shook violently. And then, just as I lifted my hand toward my mouth, I heard it. Sarah. It was the voice of my little cousin Lily. She had just run into the house without knocking, like she always did. She was only 8 years old at that time, and she adored me. She didn't even know what I was about to do. I quickly closed my fist and hid the pills under the blanket. My cheeks were wet with tears, and I tried to wipe them away before she noticed. But children see everything. Auntie Sarah, why are you crying? She asked in her small voice. Her innocent eyes looked straight at me, and my heart cracked open. How could I leave her? How could I let her find my lifeless body on this bed? I dropped the pills and hugged her tightly, so tightly that she squealed. And in that moment, I realized something. I couldn't give up. Not yet. But that didn't mean my pain was gone. No. My pain followed me like a shadow. And the very next day, things only grew worse. The news of what had happened to me had already spread around the neighborhood. And do you know who spread it? My own mother. Instead of protecting me, she told the neighbors that I was the one who had tempted Mr. John, the married man next door. People looked at me with disgust. Women whispered behind my back. Children laughed at me when I walked past. I became that girl. The shameful one. I couldn't walk to the store without hearing whispers. I couldn't go to school without seeing fingers pointing at me. My whole world turned into a cage of shame. And then, as if that wasn't enough, one night my mother confronted me again. She stood in the kitchen with her arms crossed, her eyes cold like ice. You ruined my life, she hissed. Do you think anyone will respect me now? Do you think anyone will want to marry into this family after what you did? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was more worried about her own reputation than the pain I had suffered. My blood boiled. For the first time in my life, I shouted back at her. I didn't do anything wrong. He did it to me. Why can't you see that? Her hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. Slap. My cheek burned. My tears flowed again. And I ran out of the house into the night, barefoot, with no direction in mind. I just wanted to escape. I ran and ran until I found myself standing by the old wooden bridge at the edge of town. The river beneath it was dark and deep, and the wind blew cold against my skin. I stood there, staring at the black water. 1,000 thoughts rushed through my mind. Maybe this was the way. Maybe this was how I would finally silence the pain, the shame, the rejection. I stepped closer to the edge. My toes touched the last piece of wood. My arms shook. My heart was in my throat. And just as I leaned forward, ready to fall into the darkness, a hand grabbed me from behind. Sarah, what are you doing? I froze. My whole body shook. The voice was deep, firm, and familiar. I turned my head and saw Mr. James. Mr. James was our church's youth leader. He was in his mid-20s, gentle, kind, and always the first person to check up on young people in the neighborhood. He wasn't perfect, but he cared. That night, by some miracle, he had been walking home and saw me on the bridge. Tears poured down my face. My lips trembled. I couldn't even speak. He pulled me back firmly and held me by the shoulders. Talk to me, Sarah. What's going on? At first, I just shook my head. The words were stuck in my throat. How could I explain something so heavy? But his eyes were patient, and finally, I whispered the truth. He hurt me. And my mother said I deserved it. I can't live like this anymore. When I said those words, my knees buckled. I collapsed right there on the wooden bridge. Mr. James bent down, lifted me up gently, and just held me as I cried into his chest. Listen to me, Sarah, he said softly. What happened to you is not your fault. Do you hear me? It's not your fault. Those words were like water on dry ground. Nobody had ever told me that before. My mother had blamed me. The neighbors had mocked me. But here was someone saying it wasn't my fault. For the first time, I felt a small light in my darkness. He walked me home that night, but not before making me promise one thing: that I would not try to end my life again. I nodded, though deep inside I wasn't sure I could keep that promise. When we reached the house, my mother was waiting at the door. Her arms were folded, her face was hard. Where have you been? She demanded. Mr. James answered for me. I found her on the bridge. Do you know what your daughter almost did tonight? My mother's eyes narrowed. Instead of showing concern, she scoffed. She's just looking for attention. Don't waste your time on her. My heart shattered all over again. Mr. James looked at my mother with disbelief. With all due respect, ma'am, this girl needs love, not judgment. But my mother turned her back and walked inside, leaving us standing there. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Mr. James's words replayed in my mind. It's not your fault. And for the first time I wondered, could he be right? But before I could answer that question for myself, something else happened that threw my world into even more chaos. Because the very next day, Mr. John, the neighbor who had hurt me, came knocking at our door again. The very next day, after that long night on the bridge, I heard it. 3 heavy knocks on our door. Bam, bam, bam. My heart froze. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't need to peek. I already knew who it was. Mr. John. The man who had destroyed my childhood. The man whose shadow haunted my dreams. My mother opened the door without hesitation, and there he was, standing tall with that same fake smile plastered on his face. He greeted her like nothing had happened, like I wasn't standing just a few steps away, trembling in the corner. "Good afternoon, ma'am," he said smoothly. "I just came to check if everything is all right." Everything in me screamed to run, to hide, to disappear. But my mother shocked me once again. She actually stepped aside and let him in. "Yes, come in, John," she said. "Don't mind her. She's just being dramatic." My blood boiled. Dramatic? I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her to stop. But my voice was stuck in my throat. He walked into our living room, his eyes locking with mine. That fake smile never left his lips, but behind it I saw something dark, something threatening. "Hello, Sarah," he said softly, in a voice only I could hear. I froze. My legs felt weak. My skin crawled. My heart pounded so loud I thought the whole neighborhood could hear it. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, my mother turned to me. "Serve him some water," she ordered. I looked at her in shock. "What? You heard me," she snapped. "He's our guest. Show some respect." Guest. The man who ruined my life was a guest in my house? My hands shook as I carried the glass of water. My eyes refused to meet his. When I set it on the table in front of him, his fingers brushed against mine on purpose. My whole body flinched. I nearly dropped the glass. My mother scowled at me. "What is wrong with you? Stop acting like a fool." I wanted to shout. I wanted to tell her everything again. But I knew it was useless. To her, I was the problem, not him. Mr. John drank the water slowly, like he was in no hurry. Then he stood, smiled at my mother, and said, "Thank you. You're raising a strong young lady." Those words made my stomach churn. Strong? No, I was broken. But worse than his words was the way my mother smiled back at him, like nothing was wrong. When he finally left, I ran into my room and collapsed on the bed, tears flooding my pillow. My body shook with anger, with shame, with helplessness. But as I lay there, one thought grew louder and louder inside me. I can't stay silent anymore. If my mother won't protect me, then I'll have to protect myself. That night, I made a decision. A dangerous decision. I was going to expose him. But what I didn't know was that this choice would set off a chain of events that would put me in even greater danger than before. Because the very next time I faced Mr. John, I wouldn't be alone. But how? Who would believe me, when even my own mother called me a liar? Then I remembered Mr. James, the youth leader from church. He had been the only one who told me it wasn't my fault. Maybe, just maybe, he would listen again. The next morning, I walked to the church. My steps were heavy, my stomach in knots. I found him sweeping the front steps, humming softly to himself. When he saw me, he smiled warmly. "Sarah, I'm glad to see you. How are you holding up?" My lips trembled. My eyes filled with tears. And before I knew it, everything spilled out. I told him what Mr. John had done. I told him how my mother had reacted. I told him about the bridge, the pills, the whispers from neighbors. Mr. James listened quietly, his broom forgotten by his side. When I finished, his face was pale, his jaw tight with anger. "Sarah," he said firmly, "this man cannot get away with this. We need to report him." Report him? The thought made my heart race. I imagined the police showing up, the neighbors gossiping louder, my mother's wrath exploding. I can't," I whispered. "Nobody will believe me." But Mr. James leaned closer, his eyes steady. "I believe you. And if you let me, I will stand with you." For the first time, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. That afternoon, Mr. James called a friend of his, a woman named Officer Miller, who worked with the local police. He explained everything. She agreed to meet me privately, away from the station, so I wouldn't feel overwhelmed. We met at a small cafe on the edge of town. She was a tall woman with kind eyes, dressed in plain clothes so no one would suspect she was an officer. She listened carefully as I told my story all over again. Her face grew serious. "Sarah, what you've been through is terrible. But if we're going to take action, we'll need evidence. Do you understand? Evidence." The word hit me like a stone. How could I get evidence against a man like Mr. John? I lowered my eyes. "I don't know how." Officer Miller leaned forward. "Don't worry. We'll figure it out. But you must be brave, Sarah. This won't be easy." My heart pounded. I was terrified but also determined. For once, someone was willing to help me. But what I didn't know was that word would soon spread. And the wrong people would find out what I was planning. Because 2 nights later, as I was walking home from the corner store, I felt a shadow following me. The street was quiet, the air heavy. I clutched my small grocery bag tighter, my steps quickening. And then suddenly, a strong hand grabbed my arm from behind. I was walking home from the corner store. The streets were quiet, the lamps flickered, and the only sound was the soft crunch of my footsteps. My heart was already uneasy, because I kept feeling like someone was watching me. And then it happened. A strong hand grabbed my arm from behind. I gasped, spinning around. And there he was. Mr. John. His face was half hidden in the shadows, but I could see the cold smile curling on his lips. His grip tightened on my arm, and fear shot through my body like lightning. "Where do you think you're going, little girl?" he whispered, his voice low and threatening. I tried to pull away. "Let me go," I shouted, my voice shaking. But he leaned in closer. "You think you're smart, don't you? Running around, telling people lies about me. Do you know what happens to girls who spread stories?" My heart thudded so hard I thought it would burst. He knew. Somehow, he knew I had spoken to Mr. James and Officer Miller. I struggled harder. "It's not a lie," I screamed. "And one day, everyone will know the truth about you." His smile disappeared. His face darkened. He yanked my arm so hard that the grocery bag fell from my hand, spilling oranges onto the street. "No one will believe you," he hissed. "Not your mother, not your neighbors. And if you keep pushing, I'll make sure you regret it." My whole body trembled. But in that moment, something inside me snapped. I was tired of being afraid. Tired of being silent. With all the strength I could gather, I stomped on his foot and shoved him with both hands. He stumbled backward just enough for me to break free. My legs flew into motion before I even realized it. I ran. I ran so fast I could barely breathe. My chest burned, my throat ached. But I didn't stop until I burst through the doors of the church where Mr. James was still working late. I collapsed on the floor, gasping for air, my whole body shaking. Mr. James rushed to me. "Sarah, what happened?" I grabbed his shirt and sobbed. "He knows. Mr. John knows. He grabbed me, he threatened me." Mr. James's face turned red with fury. He helped me to a chair and immediately picked up his phone. "That's it. We're not waiting any longer. I'm calling Officer Miller. Tonight." My heart raced. Everything was happening so fast. Part of me wanted to hide under the pews, but another part of me felt a strange relief. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the moment things would finally turn around. But little did I know. The storm was only beginning. Because later that same night, after I returned home, something happened that pushed me into the darkest corner of my life once again. I walked into the living room to find my mother waiting for me. She wasn't sitting. She wasn't calm. She was standing with a leather belt in her hands, her eyes blazing like fire. When I walked into the living room that night, I stopped dead in my tracks. There she was. My mother. Standing in the middle of the room with a leather belt in her hands. Her eyes blazed with anger, her lips pressed into a hard line. "Where have you been?" she demanded, her voice like thunder. I froze. My chest tightened. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. She raised the belt slightly, her knuckles white around the handle. I said, "Where have you been?" I swallowed hard. "I went to the church. I needed help." Her face twisted with rage. "Help? From outsiders? Are you trying to shame me even more?" Haven't you disgraced me enough already? My body trembled. My heart ached. Tears blurred my vision. Mom, I didn't do anything wrong. He's the one who hurt me. Whip. The belt cracked through the air and landed across my arm. A sharp pain shot through me, and I cried out. Stop lying, she shouted. Stop making up stories to destroy good people's names. Do you think anyone will ever respect me again with the lies you are spreading? I clutched my arm, tears streaming down my face. Mom, it's the truth. Why can't you believe me? But instead of listening, she raised the belt again. Because you are cursed, she screamed. From the day your father left, you've been nothing but a burden to me. Those words pierced deeper than the belt. My chest felt like it was tearing apart. I tried to run, but she caught my wrist. Her grip was like iron. She whipped me again and again, each strike leaving burning pain on my skin. Finally, I broke free and stumbled toward my room, slamming the door shut and locking it behind me. I collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Her words echoed in my head. You are cursed. You deserved it. I pressed my hands over my ears, trying to block it out, but it was no use. Her voice was inside me, tearing me apart. That night, I felt more alone than ever. Even with Mr. James and Officer Miller on my side, the one person who was supposed to protect me, my own mother, had become my enemy. But deep inside, another voice whispered to me. A small trembling voice, but one that refused to die. You must fight back. You must survive. You must not let them destroy you. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. But I made a silent promise to myself. One day I would break free from this prison of pain. Little did I know that day was coming sooner than I thought. Because the very next week, something happened that shook the entire neighborhood and put me at the center of it all. A week passed after that terrible night when my mother beat me with the belt. My body still ached, but my heart ached even more. Each morning, I woke up with bruises not only on my skin but deep inside my soul. I tried to avoid her as much as possible. When she went to work, I stayed home in silence. When she was home, I hid in my room, listening to her footsteps and praying she wouldn't call my name. But while my house was a cage, outside in the neighborhood, the air was heavy with rumors. Whispers floated from house to house, from mouth to mouth. And then one morning, everything exploded. It happened on a Sunday. The entire street gathered in front of Mr. John's house. People were murmuring, pointing, some even shouting. I pressed my face to my window to see what was going on. And then I saw it. 2 police cars were parked in front of his house. Officers were going in and out, carrying papers, boxes, even a computer. His wife stood outside crying, holding her 2 children close. Mr. John himself was handcuffed, being led into the back of a police car. My breath caught in my throat. My hands shook. Was this real? I ran out into the yard, my heart pounding. Neighbors were gossiping loudly now. They said he's been messing with girls. I knew something was off about him. Imagine all this time. My ears rang. My chest felt heavy. It was finally happening. He was being exposed. And then I saw her. Officer Miller. She stood near the police car, speaking with another officer. Her eyes met mine across the street, and she gave me the smallest nod, as if to say, "You see? You are not alone." I almost cried right there on the sidewalk. For once, I felt a glimmer of justice. For once, I felt like the truth might finally come out. But not everyone was happy. When I turned my head, I saw my mother standing on our porch, her arms folded, her face dark and stormy. She didn't clap. She didn't sigh in relief. She didn't even look shocked. She only glared at me with eyes full of blame. And when I stepped back into the house later that day, she cornered me in the kitchen. "This is your doing, isn't it?" she hissed. I froze. My lips trembled. I only told the truth. Her hand slammed against the counter, making me jump. "Do you realize what you've done? Now everyone will talk about us. Our family name is ruined because of you." Tears stung my eyes. "Mom, he's the one who ruined everything. Not me." Her face twisted. She leaned close, her voice like poison. "You think you've won?
No, Sara.
You've just made things worse. For both of us." Her words sent chills through my body. What could be worse than this? I didn't have to wait long to find out, because 2 nights later as I lay in bed, I heard a sound outside my window. A slow, deliberate sound. Top, top, top. I sat up, my heart racing. I pulled the curtain aside just a little, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Someone was standing in the shadows, staring up at my window. The sound came again, sharp against the glass. My heart pounded so loudly, I thought it would burst. My hands trembled as I pulled the curtain back just a little more. And then I saw him. Mr. John. I couldn't breathe. My mind screamed at me that it was impossible. I had seen him in handcuffs. I had watched the police take him away. So how could he be standing here, outside my window? His face half hidden in the shadows, his eyes locked on mine? He lifted his hand and tapped the glass again. Top, top, top. A slow, mocking rhythm. Fear froze me in place. My mouth went dry. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. And then I heard the faintest whisper through the thin window pane. You can't get rid of me, Sarah. I stumbled back, tripping over the corner of my bed, my chest heaving. I pressed my hands over my ears, but the words echoed inside my skull. Suddenly, footsteps came rushing down the hall. My door burst open. My mother stood there, her face furious. What are you doing in here, screaming like a mad girl? She barked. I pointed at the window, my whole body shaking. He's there. Mom, he's outside, he's watching me. She marched over to the window and yanked the curtain open. But when she looked out, the yard was empty. Her eyes narrowed. There's no one there. You're making up stories again. No, I swear I saw him. He was right there. My voice cracked with desperation. But she just shook her head, disgusted. You'll never stop embarrassing me, will you? Always acting like the world revolves around your drama. She slammed the door behind her, leaving me alone with my pounding heart. I curled up on the bed, clutching the blanket. My mind raced. Had I really seen him? Or was my fear playing tricks on me? The next morning, I got my answer. Because as I stepped outside, I froze. Right there, scratched into the wooden frame of my bedroom window, were 3 deep marks. Long, jagged claw-like lines, and underneath them the word liar. My stomach dropped. My knees almost gave way. It was real. He had been there. I stumbled back inside, panic rising in my chest. I needed to tell someone. I needed help. I ran straight to the church, tears blinding my eyes. I burst through the doors, calling out for Mr. James. When he saw me, he rushed forward. Sarah, what happened? I gasped for breath, pointing to my arm where I still had bruises from my mother, pointing to my chest where my heart felt like it would explode. He was there. I cried. Mr. John, outside my window. He's not gone, he's not gone. Mr. James's face darkened. He grabbed his phone immediately and dialed Officer Miller. But before the call could even connect, the heavy wooden doors of the church creaked open, and standing there in the doorway was a figure that made my blood run cold. The church doors creaked open. My chest tightened. My breath froze in my throat. For a split second I thought it was him, Mr. John. My body went stiff, ready to run. But as the figure stepped into the light, I saw it was not him. It was Officer Miller. Relief crashed over me like a wave, and I nearly collapsed. She hurried toward me. Sarah, I came as fast as I could. Tell me everything. Through sobs and shaking breaths, I told her about the tapping on my window, the whisper, the scratches carved into the wood. I told her about the word liar left behind. Her jaw tightened. She glanced at Mr. James, then back at me. Sarah, listen carefully. Mr. John was released on bail. That means he's out, and he may try to intimidate you. But that also means we have to move quickly to protect you. My knees buckled. Released? Free? How could the system let him out so soon? Tears poured down my face. I'm not safe. He'll kill me, I know he will. Mr. James placed a steady hand on my shoulder. You are not alone. We'll protect you. Officer Miller nodded. We're going to file for a restraining order, and I'll make sure an official report is opened. But Sarah, you must be brave. This will not be easy. He will fight, he will lie, and others will side with him. But if you stand firm, the truth will win. Her words lit a small fire inside me. Fear was still there, but so was determination. I had survived this long. Maybe I could survive the rest. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Police came to question me again. Papers were filed. My neighbors stared, whispered, judged. My mother refused to speak to me at all. Her silence louder than any scream. But through it all, Mr. James and Officer Miller stood by my side. They were my anchor when the storm threatened to sweep me away. And then came the court hearing. I sat trembling in that cold courtroom, my hands clenched together, my heart racing. Mr. John sat across the room, dressed neatly in a suit, his face calm, like he was the victim. His lawyer painted me as a liar, an attention seeker. My own mother sat behind him, refusing to look at me. Every word stabbed at me. But when my turn came to speak, I stood. My knees were weak, but my voice carried. I told them everything. Not in detail, but enough. The fear, the betrayal, the night on the bridge, the scratches on my window. For the first time in my life, I spoke my truth out loud with no shame. The room was silent. The judge's eyes softened. The jury shifted uncomfortably. And in that silence, I knew something had changed. It wasn't over that day. Cases like mine are never simple. But that day marked the beginning of justice. Months later, Mr. John was sentenced. I remember the moment clearly. The sound of the gavel, the words declaring him guilty, the sight of handcuffs on his wrists once again. But this time he wasn't walking free. And me? I walked out of that courthouse taller than I had ever stood before. Not because the pain was gone, it wasn't. Not because my mother finally believed me, she didn't. But because I had survived. I had fought back. And to anyone listening right now who feels broken, abandoned, or silenced, let me tell you this. You are not alone. Your pain does not define you. And no matter who tells you otherwise, you did not deserve it. I'm still healing. Some scars never fully fade. But I am alive. And as long as I am alive, I will keep telling my story, so that others will find the courage to tell theirs. This is my life lesson. Silence protects the abuser, but truth, no matter how painful, sets you free. The courtroom victory should have felt like freedom. The judge's gavel had come down, Mr. John was sentenced, and justice had finally been served. People clapped me on the back, whispered you were brave, and told me I had done the right thing. But the truth? When I walked out of that courthouse, I didn't feel free. I felt empty. Yes, he was gone, locked behind bars. But my mother's cold stare still haunted me. She hadn't even looked at me during the trial. And when I tried to approach her outside the courthouse, she turned her back and walked away. That rejection burned more than all the bruises I'd ever carried. I went home that night to a silent house. My mother's bedroom door was locked, and the faint sound of her TV filtered through the walls. I pressed my ear to the door, hoping, just hoping she would say something, anything. But all I heard was laughter from the sitcom she watched, as if nothing had happened. I slept with tears soaking my pillow. The next morning when I came to the kitchen, she was sitting at the table sipping coffee. She didn't look up. "Good morning, Mom," I whispered. No answer. I sat down across from her, my stomach tied in knots. "He's gone now. You don't have to worry anymore." Slowly she raised her eyes. And when she finally spoke, her words sliced me open. "You think you've won, Sarah? No. You've cursed this family forever. People will never forget what you did. You've ruined us." I gasped. "Mom. He hurt me. How can you still defend him?" She slammed her coffee mug down so hard it cracked. "Because you asked for it. Because you brought shame into this house. Do you think I don't see the way people look at me now? Do you think they whisper about him? No. They whisper about me. About us." Her voice shook with fury, her face red. I sat frozen. For the first time, I realized my mother wasn't going to change. No trial, no justice, no truth would ever open her eyes. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart aching. The thought came quietly at first, then louder and louder. I have to leave. I can't stay here anymore. If I stay, she'll destroy me. But the world outside was terrifying. I had no money, no job, no place to go. All I had was my pain, and the faint flicker of courage inside me. And then, just as I was drowning in that thought, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a message from an unknown number. I picked it up and read the words slowly. "You think he's gone? Think again. You'll never escape. My blood ran cold. The message glowed on my phone screen, the words burning into my mind. You think he's gone? Think again. You'll never escape. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone. I stared at the number. No name. No contact picture. Just a long string of digits I didn't recognize. My first thought was, could it be him? But that made no sense. Mr. John was behind bars. He wasn't allowed phones. And yet, my gut told me this message was connected to him. Fear swelled in my chest. I rushed to my mother's room, knocked hard on her door. Mom, someone's threatening me. She didn't answer. I knocked again, harder. Please, Mom, I need you. The door creaked open just a crack, and her cold eyes appeared. Go to bed, Sarah. I'm tired of your games. Then she slammed it shut. I stood there, shaking, tears spilling down my cheeks. I was on my own. The next morning, I showed the message to Mr. James. His face grew tight with concern. Sarah, this is serious. Whoever sent this wants to scare you back into silence. Don't delete it. We'll show Officer Miller. Later that day, Officer Miller met me at the church. She studied the message carefully, then nodded. This could be from one of his friends, or someone in his family. They may be trying to intimidate you into backing down. But don't worry. We'll trace it. I wanted to believe her, but the fear still gnawed at me. That night, every shadow in my room felt alive. Every creak of the house made me jump. And then 2 days later, it happened again. I woke up at midnight to the buzzing of my phone. Another message. You can't hide. You'll pay for what you did. My hands shook as I typed back. Who are you? What do you want from me? The reply came instantly. You'll find out soon. I dropped the phone, my heart racing. My mind screamed at me to run. But where could I go? The next morning, as I walked to the church, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Carved into the side of the wooden gate near the path was a single word, scratched deep into the wood. Slut. I staggered back, my stomach twisting. Someone had followed me. Someone had marked me. I ran the rest of the way, my heart pounding in my ears. When I burst into the church, Mr. James and Officer Miller were waiting. I showed them the carving. Mr. James clenched his fists. This is getting worse. Sarah, they're trying to break you. Officer Miller nodded grimly. This isn't just harassment anymore. This is escalation. And if they've come this close to your home and your path, then the next step could be even more dangerous. Her eyes locked onto mine. Sarah, you need to be ready. Because whoever is behind this, they're not going to stop. At that exact moment, the church doors swung open. And standing in the doorway was a face I never thought I'd see again. The church doors creaked wide, and the late afternoon sunlight poured in, outlining the figure standing there. My breath caught in my throat. My knees felt weak. It was my father. The man I hadn't seen in years. The man who had walked out of our lives when I was only a child. For a moment my mind refused to believe it. He looked older, thinner, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes were exactly the same. Dad! I whispered, my voice breaking. He stepped inside, his gaze soft but heavy with guilt. Sarah! Mr. James and Officer Miller exchanged quick glances but stayed silent, watching carefully. I took a shaky step forward. What are you doing here? He swallowed hard, his hands trembling at his sides. I heard. About everything. About the trial. About John. About your mother. His voice cracked on the last word. I couldn't stay away any longer. Anger and relief battled inside me. For years I had dreamed of this moment, of him coming back, of him finally caring. And yet, part of me wanted to scream at him for leaving me in the first place. Tears stung my eyes. You left me. You left me with her. Do you know what she did to me? Do you know what I've been through? He lowered his head. I know. And I'll never forgive myself for it. I was weak. I ran from responsibility, and because of that, you suffered. But Sarah, I'm here now, and I want to protect you. I didn't know whether to believe him, but before I could respond, Officer Miller stepped forward. Sir, if you're serious about helping your daughter, then you need to understand something. She's in danger. Someone has been threatening her. If you really care, You need to stand by her now. My father nodded quickly. Anything. I'll do anything to keep her safe. But just as hope began to flicker in my chest, the church doors burst open again. A man stormed in, his face twisted with rage, his voice booming through the hall. You ruined his life, Sarah. You think you can just destroy people and walk free? I froze. I recognized him instantly. It was Mr. John's brother. He pointed straight at me, his eyes burning with hatred. You'll pay for this. If it's the last thing I do, you'll pay. Mr. John's brother stood in the church aisle, his fists clenched, his eyes blazing with fury. His presence filled the room with raw, violent energy. You destroyed my brother's life, he shouted. He was a good man until you spread your lies. Now he's rotting in a cell, and it's all because of you. I shook my head, my voice trembling. They weren't lies. He hurt me. You know what he did. But the man only snarled, stepping closer. Shut your mouth. You think you're some kind of victim? You're nothing but a curse. And curses deserve to be erased. My father immediately stepped in front of me, shielding me with his body. His voice boomed with authority I'd never heard before. Don't you take one more step toward her. The man sneered. And who are you supposed to be? Another weak coward who abandoned her? You don't scare me. Before anyone could react, he lunged. I screamed. My father shoved me behind him and braced for impact. But before Mr. John's brother could reach us, Officer Miller moved like lightning. Police! Stay where you are. She drew her weapon and aimed it steadily at him. One more step and you'll be in a cell right next to your brother. The man froze, his chest heaving. His eyes darted between the gun, my father, and me. You'll regret this, girl, he hissed. You think the truth will save you, but it won't. There are people out there who will never let you live in peace. Then, with a furious growl, he spun on his heel and stormed out of the church, slamming the doors behind him. Silence fell. My heart hammered in my chest, my whole body trembling. Mr. James rushed to my side, his face pale. Sarah, are you all right? I nodded weakly, though my knees felt like they would give out. Officer Miller holstered her weapon, her eyes still locked on the doors. This isn't just about John anymore. This is bigger. His family, his supporters, they're coming after you because you dared to speak up. And Sarah, it's only going to get more dangerous from here. My father wrapped his arm around me protectively. For the first time in years, I felt the strength of his presence. But deep down, a new fear settled in my heart. Because Officer Miller was right. This wasn't over. Not even close. And that night as I lay in bed, I stared at the ceiling and whispered to myself, if they want to break me, they'll have to try harder. But little did I know, the very next day, something would happen that would push me to my breaking point. The day after the confrontation at the church, I woke up with a strange heaviness in my chest. I tried to push it away, telling myself it was just the fear of what had happened yesterday. But deep down, I knew something was coming. When I walked into the kitchen, my mother was sitting there as usual, sipping her coffee. She didn't even glance at me. But this time, something was different. On the table beside her cup lay a folded piece of paper. She tapped it with her finger as I entered. This came for you, she said flatly. I hesitated, my stomach twisting. What is it? Why don't you open it and see? Her voice was icy, almost mocking. My hands shook as I picked it up and unfolded it. The message inside made my blood run cold. The trial was only the beginning. Next time, we won't warn you. Next time you won't survive. There was no signature. Just those words written in jagged letters, and beneath them, a crude drawing of a noose. I dropped the paper as if it had burned me. My chest heaved, my vision blurred. Where did this come from? I demanded. My mother shrugged coldly. Someone slipped it under the door this morning. And honestly, I don't blame them. You've brought this on yourself. Her words cut deeper than the threat. I stumbled back, tears streaming down my face. How can you still say that? After everything? After they came into our church, after they threatened me, after all the proof? How can you still blame me? She stood slowly, her eyes sharp and cold. Because you are the reason our family is cursed, Sarah. And now the whole world knows it. I couldn't take it anymore. I ran from the house, clutching the letter, my lungs burning with each breath. I sprinted all the way to the church, where Mr. James and Officer Miller were waiting. When they saw the letter, their faces turned grim. "This isn't a game anymore," Officer Miller said, her voice low and steady. "This is a death threat. Sarah, you're in real danger." Mr. James put his hand on my shoulder. "You can't go back to that house. Not while this is happening. You need to stay somewhere safe." I shook my head, my tears falling fast. But where? I have no one. No family. No home. Then unexpectedly my father spoke up. His voice was firm, unshakable. "She has me. She can stay with me." The room went silent. I stared at him, my heart pounding. Could I trust him? After all these years of abandonment, could I really believe he would stand by me now? My mind was torn in two. Part of me longed for his protection, for the chance to finally have a father again. But another part of me screamed, "Don't be fooled. Don't get hurt again." And as I stood frozen in that moment, torn between hope and fear, the church windows suddenly shattered. A brick crashed through the glass, landing at our feet. Wrapped around it was another piece of paper, and in bold, furious letters it read, "Leave town or die." The brick lay at our feet, shards of glass scattered across the church floor. My heart thudded so loudly it drowned out the gasps around me. I bent down slowly and unwrapped the paper. "Leave town or die." The words screamed at me from the page, each one heavy with hate. Mr. James rushed to close the doors, locking them tight, while Officer Miller carefully picked up the brick with gloves. Her face was grim. "This is a direct threat. They're escalating fast. Sarah, you can't stay here any longer." My hands shook. But where can I go? If I run, won't that mean they've won? That they've scared me into silence again? Officer Miller crouched so her eyes met mine. "No. Staying alive is not weakness, Sarah. It's strength. You have to survive first in order to win." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. And what if survival means losing everything I know? That's when my father stepped forward. His voice was steady, more steady than I'd ever heard it before. "She can come with me. I left her once and I won't make that mistake again. I'll keep her safe." I stared at him, my emotions colliding. Could I trust him now after so many years of absence? Or would going with him only lead to more heartbreak? Before I could answer, Mr. James touched my arm gently. "Sarah, sometimes God answers our prayers in ways we don't expect. Maybe your father being here now. Maybe it's part of your path to healing." Tears filled my eyes. I wanted so badly to believe that I wasn't as alone as I felt. Finally I nodded. "Okay, I'll go with him." For the first time, a small smile tugged at my father's lips. "You're safe with me now, Sarah. I promise." But even as he said it, a shiver crawled down my spine. Because promises had been broken before. That night I packed what little I had into a bag. As we stepped out of the church, the cool night air hit my face. My father walked beside me, steady and protective, but my nerves were raw. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every rustle made my heart race. We got into his truck, and as the engine rumbled to life, I glanced out the window one last time. And that's when I saw it. Across the street, half hidden in the darkness, a car sat idling. Its headlights were off, but I could see the faint glow of a cigarette inside. Someone was watching us. As our truck pulled away, the car's engine roared to life and began following close behind. The night stretched out like a never-ending tunnel as my father's truck rumbled down the lonely Texas road. The headlights carved narrow paths through the darkness, but behind us that shadowy car stayed close. Too close. I gripped the edge of my seat, my breath shallow. "Dad, they're following us." He glanced in the mirror, jaw tightening. "I see them. Stay calm." But calm was impossible. Every beat of my heart screamed danger. Suddenly, the car behind us sped up, its engine growling. It swerved side to side, trying to intimidate us, its high beams flashing like a predator's eyes. "Hold on," Dad muttered, pressing harder on the accelerator. The truck roared as we gained speed, but the other car matched us inch for inch. My pulse pounded in my ears. "What do they want?" His knuckles whitened on the wheel. "They want to scare you. Or worse." The car lunged forward, bumping our truck's rear bumper. The jolt sent me forward against my seatbelt. my scream echoing inside the cab. "They're trying to run us off the road," I cried. My father swerved, fighting for control. Gravel spat from under the tires. Ahead, the road split into two, one path leading back toward town, the other stretching into the dark countryside. "Which way?" he barked. "Town," I shouted. "People will see us there." But before he could turn, the car rammed us again, harder this time. Metal screamed against metal. My father lost control, the truck spinning wildly. The world tilted, lights blurring, my stomach twisting as if the ground had fallen away. Then crash. We slammed into a ditch. Glass shattered. The truck groaned to a halt. My head rang, my body trembling. I blinked through the haze, searching. My father groaned beside me, blood streaking his forehead. The other car screeched to a stop behind us. Doors slammed. Footsteps crunched on gravel. My chest seized with terror. I knew who it was before I even saw him. Mr. John's brother. His face twisted in hate, shadows carving cruel lines across his features. And with him, two other men, their eyes just as cold. He banged on my side of the window, grinning wickedly. "End of the road, Sarah. You should have left town when you had the chance." I shook my head, tears streaming. "Why are you doing this? He hurt me. He's guilty. Why are you defending him?" His grin vanished, replaced with rage. "Because blood is thicker than truth. And you're nothing but poison." He raised a crowbar, ready to smash the glass. And then sirens. Red and blue lights blazed across the road. The men froze, their heads snapping toward the sound. A police car screeched to a halt, and out leapt Officer Miller, gun drawn, her voice thunderous. "Drop the weapon. Now." The men cursed, scrambling, but it was too late. More sirens wailed in the distance, backup arriving fast. The night erupted in chaos, shouts, the clash of bodies hitting the ground, the clink of handcuffs. I sat frozen, shaking as Officer Miller pulled my door open. "Sarah, are you hurt?" I could barely whisper. I thought I was going to die." She crouched, her voice steady and kind. "Not tonight. You're safe now." I looked over at my father, who was being lifted out by paramedics, his eyes finding mine. Despite the blood and pain, he managed a weak smile. For the first time, I believed him when he said he wouldn't leave me again. As the attackers were dragged away in cuffs, I realized something. Yes, I had been hurt. Yes, I had been betrayed. But I had also survived. And survival was not weakness, it was power. I turned to Officer Miller and whispered through tears, "Thank you for believing me." She smiled softly. "Never stop fighting for your truth, Sarah. You're stronger than you know." And that night, as the stars glimmered above the wrecked road, I knew my story wasn't just about pain anymore. It was about courage, about survival, and about finding the strength to rise again, even when the world tries to silence you. So to anyone watching, listening, or reading this right now, remember my story. Remember that your voice matters, no matter who tries to deny it. And please subscribe, like, and click the notification button so you don't miss more powerful stories like this one. And tell me in the comments which part of the country you're watching from. I can't wait to hear from you. Because this may be the end of my story, but it could be the beginning of yours.